Over 2,300 people confirmed dead following flash floods in Libya, with many more people still missing. Almost 3,000 people dead after the earthquake in Morocco as the government pleads for millions in aid. Poland says it will not lift a ban on Ukrainian grain imports despite EU pressure. A study into the Swiss Roman Catholic Church reveals over 1,000 cases of alleged sexual abuse. Over 2,300 people are now confirmed to have died as a result of flooding in Libya. Officials say 7,000 have been injured and thousands more are missing following torrential rains. The worst affected area is the city of Derna, where 2 dams burst. The Red Crescent said its workers are struggling to cope with the scale of the disaster.
The challenges are ranging between access to basic health facilities or health services, shelter and shelter management, food and non-food items, first aid, psychosocial support, and restoring family links as well. Last but not least, management of the dead bodies.
The extreme flooding followed heavy downpours brought by Storm Daniel to the east of the country. Across the region, towns and villages were inundated. Authorities say entire neighborhoods were washed away. The Red Crescent has appealed for international assistance and says the devastation is on a similar level to the earthquake in neighboring Morocco. Almost 3,000 people are known to have died in the earthquake which hit Morocco last Friday, with a further 5,500 injured. Hopes of finding survivors are fading while the risk of illness increases. In the most affected region, Al-Haus, south of Marrakesh, close to the epicenter, new victims have been found. Aftershocks are still being felt and fresh rainfall expected Wednesday will make rescue efforts even harder.
We are seeking 100 million Swiss francs to be able to deliver on the most pressing needs at this time, which include health, water, sanitation and hygiene, shelter, relief items and basic needs.
The Mohammed V Foundation for Solidarity coordinates aid for earthquake victims. So far, the country has only accepted aid from 4 countries: Spain, the United Kingdom, Qatar and the United Arab Emirates.
مستودعات مركزية أول اللي احنا متواجدين فيه هنا على مستوى مدينة مراكش اللي كيتم فيه توزيع وتجميع جميع الإعانات المادية والعينية اللي كتوصل.
Morocco has rejected help from France amid tension between Rabat and Paris, and Algeria says Morocco has rejected its offer of humanitarian aid.
More than 250,000 Russians have voluntarily joined the armed forces in recent months. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Tuesday, claiming 1,000 to 1,500 Russians were signing voluntary contracts to join military every day. How many Russian troops are currently in Ukraine? Ukrainian main intelligence directorate spokesperson Major General Vadim Skibitsky stated that the Russian military has concentrated over 420,000 military personnel in occupied Ukraine. That does not include Rosgvardia, Russian National Guard and other military units and structures. Thus, this number does not fully reflect Russia's total forces involved in the war in Ukraine. Ukrainian and UK military officials reported on the 11th of September that there could be more coming. The UK Ministry of Defence reported that the Russian military intends to recruit 420,000 contract personnel by the end of 2023. The Institute for the Study of War has previously assessed that this number likely includes many volunteers who are already fighting in Ukraine and who were forced to sign contracts with the Russian Ministry of Defense by the 1st of July this summer. The UK Defense Ministry says in the run-up to the Russian presidential election scheduled for March 2024, Russian authorities will likely seek to avoid further unpopular mobilizations.
Poland will not lift the embargo on Ukrainian grain regardless of an EU agreement. While Poland is a major supplier of military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine and hosts nearly 1 million Ukrainian refugees, the issue of grain imports has sparked a diplomatic dispute between the two neighbours. Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki stated he will extend the embargo regardless of the EU decision.
Albo Komisja Europejska zgodzi się z naszymi żądaniami i po 15 września przedłuży embargo, to jest nasze wyraźne żądanie, albo sami wdrożymy takie rozwiązania, jakie wdrożyliśmy 15 kwietnia.
The European Commission for Agriculture advocates extending the ban on importing grain from Ukraine.
We have been investing significant efforts and resources ensuring that Ukrainian grain can be exported and moved where is the most needed. We have ensured support to European Union farmers. The introduction of the temporary preventive measures have structured and stabilized the market in border countries. It has not restricted export of Ukrainian grains through solidarity lanes.
Poland, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria and Slovakia hope to extend the ban beyond its expiry date of Friday, but Poland says it will continue the ban even if the Commission doesn't agree. Meanwhile, Ukraine could seek compensation from Poland through the World Trade Organization.
North Korea's leader has arrived in Russia on the famous armored train used by his family for decades on very rare visits abroad. According to Washington, the objective of the trip is to close an arms agreement that will allow Russia to have the ammunition it needs for the war in Ukraine and North Korea to have economic aid and military technology. The meeting between Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un will take place in the coming days, according to the Kremlin. Russia needs North Korean ammunition to keep an eye on Ukraine, which receives a constant flow of weapons from the West.
Вот поменяло это до сих пор. Вот они уже давно, англичане поставляют эти снаряды. Поменяло это что-нибудь на поле боя? Нет. Вот они собираются F-16 поставлять. Поменяет это? Нет. Это просто затягивает конфликт.
Kim Jong-un is also seeking to strengthen ties with Beijing. China assured that the two countries are looking to deepen exchanges and cooperation in various fields.
A group of historians from the University of Zurich investigating sexual abuse in the Catholic Church in Switzerland has uncovered more than 1,000 cases since the mid-20th century. Findings released on Tuesday include 1,002 cases of abuse of mainly minors by 510 alleged perpetrators and 921 victims. The study also concludes that there was a systematic cover-up of the abusers by the ecclesiastical hierarchies.
Die Mischung aus psychischer und religiöser Manipulation sowie spirituellem Missbrauch ist typisch für das Vorgehen von Tätern in kirchlichem Kontext. Die Verantwortung aller jener, welche die Täter geschützt und die Taten vertuscht haben, wiegt sehr, sehr schwer.
This is just the result of the first year of the investigation, which is expected to last another 3 years. Investigators say the figures now revealed may only be the tip of the iceberg, and there are many more cases to be uncovered. Sex abuse scandals have shaken the Catholic Church around the world.
The European Commission has announced €2.25 billion in emergency aid to Greece after the country was hit by devastating floods. Ursula von der Leyen made the announcement in Strasbourg after a meeting with Greek Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis. Last week, the storms claimed at least 15 lives in central Greece, with parts of the country still underwater. Earlier, the country had been facing massive wildfires. The two natural disasters have caused damages worth billions of euros. To find the money, Europe needs to be fast and flexible, reorganizing unspent cohesion, agricultural and social funds in order to meet Greece's needs. At the same time, the bloc also needs to top up its crisis management budget, the Solidarity Fund.
Altogether, This could allow Greece to mobilize up to 2.25 billion euros. And then in addition, the Commission stands ready to assess a Greek request for support under the Solidarity Fund. Here, it is important that the Member States agree on our proposal to top up the Solidarity Fund. And if this happens next year, we could make available up to 400 million euros.
The EU established the Solidarity Fund in 2002, specifically to cope with natural disasters. But currently, the fund is almost empty and not able to mitigate the effects of climate change. Many MEPs think that a new, more robust support system is needed.
Right now, I think there should be more done in order to support Greece, but also other regions in Europe that have been affected. But in the future, we need to build a more resilient support system so that when things like this happen, the money can flow more directly, faster, and in a more flexible way.
The fund has been under pressure in recent months as many countries received support from it, not necessarily only member states. Turkey was helped to cope with the consequences of February's catastrophic earthquakes. Most recently, it was Slovenia's turn after the country suffered devastating floods.
Google's top litigator John Smitline arrives at the United States District Court of Columbia. Google will confront a threat to its dominant search engine beginning when federal regulators launch the biggest U.S. antitrust trial in a quarter century. Over the next 10 weeks, federal lawyers and state attorney generals will try to prove Google rigged the market in its favor by locking its search engine in as default choice in a plethora of places and devices. On Tuesday, prosecutors opened their case by saying that this is about the future of the internet and whether Google's search engine will ever face meaningful competition.